So I want to give you a little bit of background. Firstly, about History Day, if you're not familiar with it, national competition. Students can enter performances, websites, exhibits, documentaries, papers, national competition, regional competition in Greater Kansas City, Jay participated in back in February. We had 510 students here for our regional competition, which was phenomenal. And then the first, second, and third place entrants in all of those categories go to the state finals. That was in Columbia in April. And Jay advanced from the regional round to the state round. And then in the 9 regions in Missouri all can congregate at MU in Columbia for the state finals. And the top 2 in each of those categories went to the national finals. And both of those entries, first and second place at the state competition, went to the national finals, and they were both from Kansas City. And Jay might tell you this, but he finished second at the state competition to Lenny's student Grace, who finished first at the state. Now at each level of the competition, they're able to improve their entries, so both Grace and Jay came to our delegate clinic that we did here in May to improve their entries some more. And Jay will tell you a little about that a bit later on, I bet, about a suggestion I gave him for some research, which is very personal to me. And then at the national finals, both Grace and Jay finished in the top 5 in the nation. And Jay got that gold medal, which means that he finished first in the nation. So as you know, perfect segue from our presentation this morning about Winston Churchill. The theme this year for History Day is leadership and legacy, and so Jay focused primarily on Winston Churchill's leadership and legacy. I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right. Hello, my name is Jay Mehta, and the title of my performance is Victory at All Costs, the Leadership and Legacy of Winston Churchill. Good evening, gentlemen. It is a fine day for England. As you know, I am just returning from a very successful trip to Germany. Yes, this document bears both my name, Neville Chamberlain, and that of the German Chancellor, Adolf Hitler. It is a promise for our 2 countries never to go to war again. What's this? Hand delivered. It says it's urgent. Oh, it's Churchill, the warmonger. Yes, he's been yelling at me from his backseat in Parliament about Hitler for years and years. Well, now, on the day I successfully appeased Hitler, on the day I shook the hand Churchill said I should never trust, on the day I have achieved peace for our time, let us see what he has to say. Chamberlain, you were given the choice between war and dishonor. You chose dishonor, and you will have war. Chamberlain's plan to appease Hitler was widely considered a success, but on September 1st, 1939, the Nazis crossed the border, invaded Poland, and World War II began. And because of the agreement of mutual assistance between Britain and Poland that guaranteed the integrity of that very border, Britain was forced to declare war on Nazi Germany. And on May 10th, 1940, on the day Hitler began his campaign in Western Europe, Neville Chamberlain, Prime Minister of Great Britain, resigned. And it was clear there was only one man who could take his place: Winston Churchill. Grace, are you getting this? France has fallen. I expect the Battle of Britain is about to begin. Upon this battle depends the survival of Christian civilization. Hitler knows he will have to break us in this island or lose the war. If we can stand up to him, all Europe may be free, and the life of the world may move forward into broad, sunlit uplands. But if we fail, then the whole world, including the United States, including all we have known and cared for, will sink into the abyss of a new dark age. Even though large tracts of Europe and many old and famous states have fallen, or may fall, to the grip of the Gestapo and oh, the odious apparatus of Nazi rule. We shall not flag or fail. We shall go on to the end. We shall fight in France. We shall fight in the seas and the oceans. We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender. Let us therefore brace ourselves to our duties, and so bear ourselves. With the British Empire and its Commonwealth last for 1,000 years, men will still say, this was their finest hour. Did you get that? Oh, Grace, this is a trying time. The whole world believes we are unable to defeat the Nazis, but we cannot surrender. Victory or death, we have to KBO. Keep buggering on. In the following months, the German Luftwaffe undertook an all-out, sustained aerial bombing attack on Britain in what would become known as the London Blitz. However, unlike every other European nation Hitler had invaded, Britain did not surrender. But to defeat Hitler, Churchill knew he would need both the US and the Soviets to be on Britain's side. And by 1945, the success of Churchill's galvanizing efforts was becoming clear as the Allies neared victory. Harry! I don't care what Churchill called you! You are the Vice President of the United States! You should know better than anyone else that he's the reason we are winning this war! Just think back to 1940, will you? He was the perfect man to lead Britain. He was decisive. He forbade any peace with the Nazis. But most of all, he did not surrender. And he fired up his countrymen to support him. He weaponized the English language and sent it into battle. Harry, I'm telling you, if Churchill had told the Brits to go fight on the beaches with broom handles, they would have gone. And then Pearl Harbor was attacked. And we had to change our entire policy of isolationism and enter the war. I know, I'm sure Churchill was pleased, popping the champagne. But it wasn't because people had died. It was because he knew that now we could actually defeat Hitler. So what, that Churchill, he is a character, all right. On one of his visits here to the White House, he called me to his room late at night. I went, knocked on the door, he said, come on in, so I went in. And there was Churchill, just out of the bath, buck naked. I tried to roll out and apologize when, cross my heart and hope to die, Harry. Churchill looked me in the eye and said, the Prime Minister has nothing to hide from the President of the United States. But don't let that bit fool you. Now, I know almost 30,000 working class people lost their lives during the Blitz, but just think about where we are now. Churchill, in all his arrogance, stubbornness, and impatience, has managed to create what he calls this grand alliance. He knew what would happen if the Germans had gained control over Soviet land and resources. So he aligned with Joseph Stalin, even though he hates communism and does not trust him at all the while convincing us to lend Britain informal support before we even formally entered the war. I mean, just think about how strange and unlikely this all is. And yet, it's how we're winning. Less than a month later, the Nazis surrendered at Berlin, and Hitler committed suicide. Churchill, the great leader, the great foreseer, the great orator, the great man, had won. Even the current Prime Minister, David Cameron, has cited Churchill not only as his favorite British Prime Minister, but also his inspiration. Members of Parliament, I am humbled to stand before you today as your Prime Minister, a title once held by Winston Churchill, who died on this day 50 years ago. If you look at the world we live in today, it is not difficult to see the indelible legacy he has left behind. Mr. Churchill fought the war he had to fight to ensure peace for the future. Back in 1941, even prior to America's entry into the war, Churchill, along with President Roosevelt, signed the Atlantic Charter. This agreement declared that once victory over the Nazis had been attained, there should be a way for all countries to work together and maintain peace. The Atlantic Charter paved the way for the United Nations of today. Then, in March 1946, Churchill delivered a speech in Fulton, Missouri, in which he sounded the first warning as he saw the Iron Curtain descending across Europe. This warning led to the transatlantic agreement known as NATO. Then, in September of that year, Churchill delivered another astonishing speech in Zurich, in which he called for the world to forgive and forget the sins of the Nazis and work together to create a kind of United States of Europe. The European Union we have today is a direct result of that call. All this aside, it was Churchill's vital move in 1940 to look Nazi tyranny in the eye and say no, not now, not ever. It was this move that defined his legacy and earned him a place in history today. Winston Churchill was a leader at a time when it was seemingly impossible to lead. His crucial decision to stand strong against the Nazis and his ability to persuade the Allied nations to follow his lead saved Britain, saved Europe, and quite possibly saved the world. The very fact that Europe was not Nazified, but there has been no Third World War, that economic, military, and diplomatic relations between the United States and the United European Union are stronger than ever. This is the legacy of Churchill's leadership. But in this increasingly interconnected world, new threats to our freedom and democracy continue to emerge. In facing these threats, the leaders of today must never forget the importance of working together and fighting for these principles. And if they need an example, they only need to look back to the last century, to the leadership and legacy of Winston Churchill. Thank you.